Good morning. It's Dr. Johnson here for yet another installation of KoiBeginner.com. And I appreciate your comments. Subscribers to the Koivet mailing list have been invited to suggest some ideas for subject material, as well as a few I've gathered up as well. It's interesting how many of them are the same. And so I thought I would do the one that we got 3 on, and that was stocking density. How many fish can I have in my pond? Or what size, or how many fish per gallon and all that stuff. And sometimes people do it based on surface area. That's a very particular way of doing it. It involves you understanding the surface area of your pond. That's basically oxygen exchange areas, as well as then the advanced hobbyists will go through and they'll divide the length of the fish by the weight to figure out what the actual biomass of the fish is, and then they'll do some algebraic and trigonometric calculations of the reverse transventralism of the biomass to the surface area at the partial pressure of the atmospheric oxygen is measured against the nitrogen. Sounds like fun. I have a lot simpler method. Basically, what I recommend that you do is something on the order of 1 inch fish per 10 gallons of water. Yeah, I'll show you that graphically. I have high-tech graphics in my videos. 1 inch of fish in 10 gallons of water. So let me go through a couple other scenarios, though, because it matters. Some people say, I want it easy. Like, I'm not going to be around, I travel a lot, that sort of thing. If that's the case, you want a filtration system that doesn't require daily attention. Basically, if a filter has a pressure gauge on it, it needs daily attention to make sure that the pressure gauge is allowing the flow of water that you're supposed to have. If you're going to be away a lot and you don't want to have to be messing around looking at filtration systems, you're going to want something simpler, probably open to the surface, no pressure gauges, no flow meters. There are a variety of options for you in that regard, most of which are called low-tech filtration systems, and they're supposedly not sufficient for show quality koi. Whatever. Most of us don't have show quality koi or want any, because river otters eat them just the same as regular koi. I'm not picking on show koi. They're fine. I love them. Yay. But so for stocking densities, let's look at some gradations of stocking density. For the person who wants it easy, I'm going to suggest that you stay below this number. That basically is a half an inch of fish in 10 gallons of water. That works great. Half an inch of fish in 10 gallons of water gives them plenty of room, although you'd be surprised if you got koi, they'll grow right into that, and then you'll end up at the end of the season culling anyway, which is fine. And then the next level, and this is a level that I'm not concerned about either. When I talk to people who have, I got sick fish, what do I do? Well, assess your crowding, and this is a good number for crowding. If you only have an inch of fish in 10 gallons of water, then generally I do not associate that stocking density with health problems. So as we were to go through a dichotomy or a checklist of fish health issues with the pond, like you would have in pondcrisis.com, that's one of the criteria of crowding. If you have your fish overcrowded, then the spread of disease is a lot easier. Let's say I had a cold and I got into an elevator with a bunch of other people who didn't have a cold. In an elevator, they would get a cold. But if we were in a football stadium and I had a cold, chances are these other dozen people would never get my cold because we're all spread out, I guess. Especially if it's a Georgia Tech versus University of Georgia game, in which case there would be then 11 University of Georgia people on one side and the one Georgia Tech person on the other side. Sorry, that's my attempt at humor on Monday. There's another level of stocking density that is a little bit of a problem, and that is this: 2+ inches of fish per 10 gallons of water. Which is fine. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but when you get into 2 inches of fish per 10 gallons of water or above that, you start to look at pro. Pro meaning that you need better than average filtration, a little bit more monitoring, possibly constant replacement of water through a drip irrigation system. Monitoring water control, you'll probably have some suffering water clarity, higher incidence of green water, and that sort of thing based on that stocking density. If you called me up and said you had sick fish, I'd be like, that stocking density is pushing it a little bit, especially if your filtration isn't way up there. So 2 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water is really pushing your luck, pushing the envelope. And then there's another level of stocking density that really matters, and that's it: 4 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water, she's gonna call you. Call you? What do I mean by that? Well, that is Mother Nature. She's going to come in at 4 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water. She's going to come in there and she's going to figure out who she's got to get rid of to bring that down to any kind of physiological level. And the funny thing about Mother Nature is she's going to take your favorite fish. Now, the reason she'll do that, actually she won't. The reason that it'll happen is because your favorite fish are usually the most beautiful, and then they're the most genetically strained out. They're hemophiliac blue bloods from their inbreeding. Kind of kidding. But they're strained out, and so they're not as strong as the other kinds of fish. And so when the crowding gets tough, the genetically pure get going and die. So I'm going to suggest that you stay away from 4+ inches of fish in 10 gallons of water. Now, there's a guy out there, and I'll pick on him, a friend of mine, Tom Holder, and another friend of mine, Ron Calvert. Those dudes have like 7 filtration systems on their ponds, and you think I'm kidding. I'm not. Ron Calvert's basement is loaded with filtration systems. You go in there and you're like, dude, like in my garage, in my basement, I have like a lawnmower and some boxes of stuff that we failed to move and unpack from last time. And you look around his basement and it's just filtration systems as far as the eye can see. He could put 100 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water in his pond. Hats off. And then you'd have to meet Ron Calvert. He is one funny guy. And then there's Tom Holder. I got pictures of his filtration system. I'm glad he understands it because I don't. He has 2 or 3 filtration systems, and he could pretty much put whatever he wants in his pond without much of a health problem. And there's a bunch of other people too with overfiltration. And when I say overfiltration, and this is another question that people say have been asking me, how much is too much filtration? And I'd go, there's no such too much filtration. That's impossible. There's never too much filtration. Unless you can't manage it all. It's possible you get a filtration system so huge and so stacked up that you're kind of like, I can't manage this filtration system. And that's too much filtration. But as far as the fish caring about too much filtration, nah. Will it always do its job? Pretty much. And it'll boost up your stocking density numbers for sure. So, let's go back to basics. What is a good stocking density for, say, Myrna Kahupna-Snetzner in Tennessee, who really can't do anything with her pond? She's a very geriatric person. She sits by the pond, doesn't want to have to do very much. She likes a 1/2 inch of fish in 10 gallons of water. The average guy who wants to avoid disease problems and have fish about as healthy as he can, 1 inch of fish in 10 gallons of water. That guy who has these fish that he really can't resist buying, and he's kind of got this little addictive thing going on, God love him, was one of them. 2 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water is pushing it, but you better be good at water quality. And then finally, at 4 inches of fish in 10 gallons of water, sure, you can do it. But if a disease organism gets in there, it only has to jump about 3 inches to get to the next fish, and it spreads like wildfire. So that's what I came here to talk to you about today, was stocking density. It was a common question on the subscriber list. Let me explain that, by the way, on subscriber. It is not the... It's not the subscriber list to the YouTube part, because I don't even check that. It's the subscriber list actually on Koivet.com. I think right down the homepage there's a way to subscribe to the Koivet list. Now, I'll tell you this too, that the Koivet list does not have just Koivet stuff. The Koivet list has, just today I sent one out about the dehydrated chicken breasts that they're selling for dogs to chew on. We're seeing a lot of illnesses in that regard. I have about 3,500 dog patients, and I guess I've seen in the last 2 or 3 months, I've seen about 8 or 9 of them come in with a combination of signs on that. They'll have neurological symptoms. It's all in the email I sent to the subscribers. But neurological symptoms, muscle fasciculations all through the head and shoulders, and it gets worse. And also some of these weird diarrheas where they break with the diarrhea that goes to bloody, and then, but all the way through that, there's this weird, crazy high thirst element. Even when they're not eating and they're vomiting, they'll still drink. And I haven't seen that very often either. So, anyway, so I ramble. But it's a subscriber list that's being formulated on the Koivet website, not on the YouTube video thing. And then the YouTube videos, like I said, I'm going to be putting those up based on what subscribers are suggesting. There's a forum